Chapter 27, Brown Bob's Descent. When I finally paroled, the supervisor, Jerry Cardoza from Ukiah, was the one who drove back out to San Quentin to pick me up again. This time, he didn't make me wear waist chains, and the temperament between us differentiated vastly from the first time he picked me up. I actually hadn't done that bad on parole and was even working a full-time job, so his outlook toward me softened up considerably. He wasn't as inflexible as he was the first time. When we got back to Ukiah, Cardoza drove me to Melissa's place and dropped me off. I was excited about being back out like I was every other time I had gotten released. However, I had two priorities on my mind and neither one of them could wait. The issue involving Lefty and making contact with Eminem. The first thing I did was call the cell phone number Caja had given me so I could make arrangements to meet up with them somewhere. When I finally got a hold of this guy, he was in a nightclub somewhere in San Jose. It became obvious really fast that he was drinking. Off the bat, I told him that we had something we needed to take care of for Lefty, so we needed to set up a time to get together to discuss it. To my disappointment, he started making excuses about why he couldn't get away right now and all kinds of other commiserable excuses about why this needed to wait. I already knew he wasn't with the business as soon as he started up with this crap. I told him just shoot me the contact information that Lefty had given him and I'd just take care of it myself. Then his attention turned to Brown Bob and what had apparently happened in Campbell. He said, "Did you hear about what happened to BB? The brothers killed him out here and the feds are everywhere. They subpoenaed me to go testify in front of the grand jury, but I don't know shit." He started going on about some of the details and what happened, but I cut him off and told him to stop talking about it on the phone. This guy was drunk and was talking way too much, so I cut the conversation short and told him I'd get a hold of him the next day after he sobered up. Needless to say, I wasn't able to get a hold of him anymore after that. I believe he purposely avoided my calls and had no intentions of getting together with me. The unfortunate thing was that we both gave Lefty our word that this would be taken care of, and I know how much he was depending on it. Now I was going to have to write Lefty and explain the circumstances so that he'd at least know that this had nothing to do with me not doing my part. After I got more details about how Brown Bob was murdered and who was involved, everything that happened when I was in C2 with Big Rock, Stork, and Bad Boy made sense now. They were obviously planning his murder as far back as late 1998. This was the special assignment I assumed they were prepping Bad Boy for when I noticed the extensive amount of communication that was being sent back and forth to Bad Boy. According to an article in the San Jose Mercury News, on April 19, 1999, almost 2 weeks after I paroled, NF member Santos Bad Boy Bernias and two NR members, David Dreamer Escamilla and Albert Beto Avila, jumped into a stolen Ford Explorer and headed for Palo Santo Drive in the neighborhood in Campbell, California, where Brown Bob was living. NF member Antonio Chuco Guillen, who was the ringleader overseeing this operation, sat in a separate vehicle parked down the street from BB's house so he could witness the killing as it took place. When the Explorer pulled up in front of Brown Bob's house that day, he coincidentally was standing outside, watering his rose bushes. Completely unsuspecting of what was about to happen, he stood there watching from his driveway as Bad Boy and Dreamer approached him. When they got close enough, they drew their weapons and began shooting BB as he attempted to run toward his open garage. After taking several rounds to the legs, BB fell to the ground and continued to crawl. Bad Boy and Dreamer kept shooting, hitting him a total of 7 times in the chest, back, and arms. After unloading their weapons, they jumped back into the Explorer and drove to a waiting car at the La Valencia Apartments on Bud Avenue. At the exchange point, it was agreed that the driver, Beto, would be responsible to either wipe down the vehicle or set it on fire. The choice was his. Later on that night, Chuco, Beto, Bad Boy, and Dreamer checked into a room at the Residence Inn in Sunnyvale with a couple women they invited to celebrate Brown Bob's killing in what was believed to be a successful job. Chuco's mistress, Nadine Serrano, apparently used her credit card to get the room. At some point, while they were drinking beer, eating pizza, and sitting in the hot tub, Bethel made a disturbing confession to Dreamer. Bethel admitted that in a rush to finish the job, he had forgotten to wipe down the steering wheel or any of the door handles for fingerprints. On April 24, 1999, 5 days after the murder, Chuco and Bad Boy were both arrested on suspicion of murder. Their anger quickly turned toward Bethel. They felt that Bethel's failure to finish his part of the job led to their arrest, and that he was the sole reason why they had gotten busted. On May 14, 1999, Bad Boy called Dreamer and told him to go ahead and proceed with their green light that they had placed on Bethel. Dreamer then relayed this message back to Bethel and another Norteño by the name of Rudy Night Owl Moreno. Dreamer told them that he had just received clearance for a hit that was supposed to take place in the east side foothills, but held back on revealing who the intended target was. Later on that same day, Bethel, Night Owl, and Dreamer jumped into Bethel's car and headed for the San Jose foothills. Bethel allegedly offered to be the triggerman as a form of cleanup for the grave misstep he committed, but it was Bethel who was unknowingly being lured to his own death. When Bethel approached Mount Pleasant Road near Higuera, Dreamer told him to pull over. As they exited the vehicle under the pretenses that they were on their way to take someone else out, Dreamer withdrew his weapon and began shooting Bethel in the back of the head. This capped off the epilogue to the Brown Bob murder, but as with MC's murder, the fallout would continue amongst the NF ranks for taking out such a highly placed, respectable member. The organizational governing body was apparently living up to its blood in, blood out creed. This is one of the impractical functions that a criminal organization such as the Nuestra Familia strongly promotes. Whacking NF hermits or high-ranking members such as Brown Bob, who attempted to settle into a normal life and no longer wished to be entrenched in this criminal arena. One must consider whether or not taking out someone like Brown Bob was really worth it, or whether the cons really outweigh the pros. Did his murder really serve as an example to other high-ranking NF members at a time like this, where faith in the NF's direction was already waning? I understand the concept of blood in, blood out, but this is where the NF and other criminal organizations alike are creating unnecessary dilemmas for themselves. The mindset and caliber of these guys who commit themselves to these criminal organizations are nothing like they were in the 60s and 70s. When a long-standing member such as Brown Bob decides to step away from the organization without creating strife, why not let him walk away and leave him alone? What type of ramifications could this really cause anyway? That other members will think that it's okay and may want to do the same thing? This raises an even bigger question. If this was the case, then why would you want Familianos to continue serving an organization that no longer have a desire to be involved? Is it wise to have them continue forward with their commitments based solely on the fear of this blood in, blood out policy? Another example can be made about Joseph Mojo Ibarra. Here's an individual that wanted to get out of the gang life and wanted to take his life in another direction. But because of the draconian consequences of dropping out or walking away, he turned to the feds and sought witness protection. This resulted in his agreeing to wear a wire to some of the regiment's meetings and provide harmful information that foiled a hit and implicated more than half the regiment. This blood in, blood out policy will surely continue to be enforced, and unfortunately, many others, such as Brown Bob, will ultimately fall victim to its tactless imprudence. These criminal organizations should have reconsidered changing their policies to optional commitments as things have changed, and to readapt themselves to the new breed of manpower. When a committed member has honorably served the organization and has proven his loyalty, he should then be given the option to go on with his life or continue serving. This would eliminate massive problems that have surfaced not only within the NF, but within the NR as well. It becomes counterproductive in the overall scheme of things. Mandating these individuals to continue functioning against their will does more harm than good. Brown Bob should have been allowed to go on with his life, which would have actually benefited the organization and avoided a lot of the irreparable damage his murder created. The article also reported in part, in the fall of 1999, a grand jury convened and listened to over 3 months of testimony from more than 70 witnesses. Murder indictments were then handed down to Dreamer, Bad Boy, Chuco, and Night Owl. In March of 2000, they all pled out and accepted life deals that ranged from 25 to life with enhancements to 50 to life with enhancements. Beto lost his life for failing to complete his part of the job, but in the end, it really didn't matter. Through the course of testimony, it was discovered that Dreamer, Bad Boy, Chuco, and Beto would have gotten busted anyway due to their own lack of better judgment and the miscues that they had made before Brown Bob was even killed. Several witnesses testified that they saw Chuco, Bad Boy, Beto, and Dreamer sitting inside the Explorer at the La Valencia apartments an hour before the crime was even committed. They were apparently seen eating Jack-in-the-Box fast food and dumped their trash in the parking lot. Criminologists were summoned to the scene within hours and lifted prints off the soda cups, lids, and straws.